Okay, I'd like to do a hopefully quick video, although I don't know if I can make these things quick, about a feature that was not included in this gold stock data tutorial that I put together. These, if you've watched them, you'll know that these are all videos that Don had done. And there was one option, this one here, Summaries, that was added after he completed the earlier video. So yeah, this was added 1 month after Don had done the video. So I'm just going to describe actually not only this feature, but how you can use it in conjunction with the other tools of gold stock data. All right, how to get the most effect from all the tools that are available, and perhaps help with conducting due diligence. Pardon me. All right. So here's the feature, and actually before I get into it, I thought, let me bring this up right here. I thought I would do it in the context of the forum discussions because these are really good. I think the insights that members share with one another are the best feature, bar none. So I want to start off with Zorro's comment. Now he happens to be the one whose contributions prompted me to start posting my own. So you'll see in the good resources section, for example, a lot of the articles and helpful things that people have shared, quite generously. And just in the same spirit that Zorro has been sharing all these years. So, when you see stuff out there on good resources and posts that help all of us, that's the kind of spirit that we have here on Gold Stock Data. And anyway, this is what he had posted: high grade, near surface, cheap silver. What's your favorite stocks right now? Production that are high grade, near surface, and cheap. All right, so I did a search, and that's the first tool I'll highlight. How are you going to go about your screening process, right? How are you going to find those stocks? Well, one member asked, what are the best newsletters that you guys have found? Well, I'll say more about that later. But anyway, so I did this search and came up with a list of silver stocks and said, okay, I'll kick it off. Here's some to start out the weeding process. And I also included a link below to something Paul, our webmaster, had shared. It was really, I thought, was a brilliant piece of advice, and I will get to more of that later as well. But he says, well, read the MD&A, do your due diligence, essentially. Filter the stocks, and the search and compare tool can get you to a small list worthy of more investigation. That's the key, right? Getting to a short list of stocks that have the best potential. All right, so this is a tool you'll want to use. And then in conjunction with that, I'd just like to point out what Don, now here he also gives us great feedback. And he says, well, you know mine, they can be found here. And he wrote several articles, and I have them pulled up right here. But before I get to these, let's go back to this discussion. All right, you have to wonder, if this feature was added by our webmaster, right, you'd have to wonder, what was it that he thought would bring value to gold stock data? And what was lacking in gold stock data up to that point? Well, let's look at that with those thoughts in mind. All right, we're going to look and see. He wanted to provide a feature that will pull up a selection of stocks in a different way to the search page. All right, we just saw an example of the search page. So now we're going to get the information in a different way to the search page. All right, now the selection of stocks can be in your watch list, in a portfolio, in one of the top preset searches, or in a save search. All right, so if you click here, I brought that up right here. If you click there, or if you click up here, Summaries, it brings up these collections in one of your portfolios, a preset search, save search, or your watch list. But before we get to what it looks like, let's go back to Don's newsletters. All right, here he has one best of the best. You can go out there and look at that, but it's this one I want to focus on, the best optionality plays, because he has three categories: likely winners, could be, should be winners. Okay, three categories. All right, so I took the likely winners. All right, those were the best. And what I had done, all right, if you look at portfolio, all right, that's one tool that I find very helpful in doing an analysis like this. All right, I put all of those stocks into a portfolio. All right, and that helps me first, restrict the universe of stocks for consideration down to some that have already been pre-selected. Now that's a starting point because I want to use the tools, the remaining tools, to come up with my own list. All right, but I start with this. Now what can we do with this portfolio? Well, we can view it as search. So we'll click on that. All right, now it came up. All right, now we have 12 stocks. And this will give us all of the information in the gold stock data database. Well, actually, if we go in here, I should select all columns because it might not be all of the information, and we'll update. All right, now we have all of the information about these companies, and we can scroll through and look at the values for each and do our comparisons, side by side comparisons, right? If we can order them by category and compare them side by side and look at what might be the best value right now. You might want to pull up one that's gone down the most, right? That might be a good starting point. And was it is it undervalued? Is the market not recognizing the value of the remaining bits of data in this spreadsheet for that company? And you'll want to go in and analyze that. But one of the shortcomings of this output that you notice immediately as you scroll to the right is you have no clue as to which company you're dealing with, right? Because the company name has just scrolled off the page. And you don't get back to the company if you're looking at all of these columns till you scroll all the way to the right where the name appears again. So that's one drawback of the search results. All right, well, let's go back to the beginning here in case we want to come back to this page. All right, so the search result was one way of looking at data. What was the other way? Well, if you click on this, Avino is one company, click on the profile here, all right, that brings up this page. All right, you could get out here by clicking companies and then selecting Avino Gold, Silver and Gold as well. So there's multiple ways of getting here, but the point is, and what I want to illustrate, is that the data here is concentrated, although concentrated in one company. There's a lot of information to take in, right? If you scroll all the way to the bottom, scroll all the way back to the top. Now, if you want to consider two companies side by side, if you pick another company and pull up their data in a new tab and switch back and forth, that also might be very difficult in weeding out. All right. So that's basically what was available. So let's go back. All right, so we saw this selection of stocks in a different way. All right, so if we were to pull up this, and we know we have that portfolio, right? Don's likely winners. So I'm going to pull that up right here. All right, so what do we have here? We have a summary of the portfolio. So we have basically the information you would see in either the search results or the company profile page, but with only what Paul considered to be the most relevant information to give. Well, I don't know if it's the most relevant information, but the intent here Let's go back here. I often find when using the site that I want to look at a summary of information. I like to read down in my own summaries and a few relevant data points. All right, so let's go back to the summary. So that's what we have here. All right, so this is all of the company profile page that might be just enough to give you what you're wanting to look at when just refreshing your memory, for instance, if you've already gone and done a deep dive on these companies, which you probably should do before using something like this, but maybe not, because we'll see in a minute that you can actually use these as a launching point to do further analysis. But what we have here is all of the financial information, the rating, the type of company, a link to the company website, a link to the company profile page. If you click on the name of the company, it brings you to the company profile page. We have all of the tools available, the quick links, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. We have all of the resource data. We have where the properties are located, indicating what potential risk, perhaps, um, and how well diversified they are, the type of company. We have Don's summary. So you can see there's a lot of really helpful information on this page. And some metrics that I'd like to focus on for a minute. One of them being this one right here, market cap AGEQ. So that's market cap divided by the silver equivalent ounces. Where do we get that from? Well, if we go out here, R&R, it's 112 million ounces. All right, what they are basically is a somewhat discounted number. Actually, if you look at the proven and probable, measured and indicated and inferred, you'll know that the measured and indicated and inferred is whittled down by a factor to come up with a plausible number, which I think is really helpful, but just something for you to be aware of. So it's 112 million ounces divided into the market cap. All right, we have a market cap of 88 million. That tells us that the silver in the ground, well, whatever silver gold in the ground, works out the silver equivalent to 79 cents. Wow, that sounds pretty cheap. All right, so you can compare this value with other silver companies and maybe use that as a metric. That's one, they're always posting their comparables as we've seen in a post on in the forum. So that's one metric you might want to look at. Another one is this one here, 3.56%. Percent of what? Okay, that turns out to be the same resources times the spot price. All right, that gives us a little over 2 billion. And if we divide that into the market cap, we see that the market cap is currently represents only less than 4 or 3.5% of what the total ounces in the ground. All right, so that's another useful metric. And when you're comparing one with another, now they're not apple to apple comparisons because one company may be further along in development and may have been given a higher valuation as a result, or there may be other factors. But this is a useful at a glance number. All right, now let's scroll down because the next company here we see is Serato Gold. Now we can't not necessarily use this view as a example because this happens to be a gold company. All right, so you can't really compare perhaps this value with this value. Maybe the percentage might be a good indication though. All right. But what you might want to be doing is if they're producers, look at the cash flow and the multiple. All right, we see 7 million cash flow multiple, and maybe this might be a better value. All right, this only has a market cap of 49 million, almost 50 million, and has a lower multiple than Avino. So Serato might be a better pick. So those are a couple of things that are available. And again, we'll get to more of the things you can do on this summary page in a moment. But what I want to do is talk about the other way All right, so we've seen how to use the summary page, right? To bring up, I'm sorry, let me go back here. We saw how to use the summaries option, but Paul says there's another way you can use the summary page. All right. He says you can also summarize, and let me highlight that. You can also summarize selections from the search page in the same way you would shortlist or create a portfolio. All right, so I'm going to give an example here of a search that I set up to be almost like the one I had done earlier. It's all mostly silver, mid-tier and lower producers. All right. Let's not consider majors, emerging majors right now, just the mid-tiers and smaller producers. All right, maybe they might have the most better value right now. And then I clicked on the columns that might provide just enough information here. All right, so let me update this. Let me do a search. All right, so here we have a list of 25 stocks. Now that's probably more than we want to consider, and depending upon our knowledge base and our comfort, we might want some assistance. Maybe that newsletter that some members have asked about, who can give me some insights? Well, Don can give you some insights. He gave you one out here, gave you some out here, and I put that into a portfolio. So I'm going to highlight one thing you can do. All right, you can highlight stocks from a portfolio. Now, unfortunately, OBS, the software I'm recording this with, is not going to show pop-up, so I'm going to click on it and just describe. So now I have a list of all of the portfolios. I'm going to scroll down, and here I have Don's likely winners. I select that, and I go down, and I update my search results. And here, just like in best and worst, if you've ever noticed that if you go to that option, you see that any stocks in a portfolio are highlighted. So you can do the same thing in the search results here and maybe put some hints that you've gleaned from other sources, either ceo.ca, Twitter, wherever you look for information about a company, as you note them. As a matter of fact, if you look at my portfolios, you see that a lot of my portfolios are, composed of tips that I get from other places. So I like to use them to come back and look for good values. Look at doing crowdsourcing of information of people I consider to be well informed. And Don, you see I have a number of his picks out there. If you go to portfolio, well, if I would have shown you, I have a lot of his stuff out there. So this is how I use portfolios. And so now I'm going to take a look. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, his picks. I'm going to pick these three. I also want to highlight this guy, Mag Silver. I just listened to a podcast, Mining Stock Daily, where they reported 600 grams per ton. And that illustrates something Paul mentions in his comment. Maybe I'll bring it up and if I can find it quickly. But anyway, I just want to point out this number has gotten even better than when Don had done his analysis, and it's already pretty good because they mention that the typical producer is at 150 grams per ton. All right, so they were already double, and now they're quadruple. So that might be a stock to look at, although maybe they're already pretty well valued. But I just wanted to highlight them. And Don mentioned recently he had gone to Beaver Creek, Denver, and had good conversation with Aya, who he was impressed by. So that's another company. All right, so that's how you might want to pull in information that you hear about companies. All right, so if we select those, we go down to the bottom. Again, you're not going to see this on due to the recording software, but when I click it, there's 4 options now: shortlist, show summary, create portfolio from, set tags on. So if I click on show summary, all right, here we have that list again, and it's only stocks that we're wanting to perhaps compare one with another. So here now you can scroll through, and it is an apples to apples comparison. We can look at these metrics, right? Um, we can look at these tools, use these tools from this view. Now you'll know when you're in the company profile, they're all right here, and you can pull them up and help you with your due diligence. Well, these same tools are right here. And as a matter of fact, since OBS doesn't show pop-ups, I brought up a tip out in Good Resources that I posted with what you will see if you pop them up. All right, so in the quick links, if you go out there, if you're new to gold stock data, here are the things that you can use. Okay, the internal tools, cash flow calculator, forum board, search and compare view. All right, um, the here's the oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. I'll get to that in a moment. Here are the external tools. All right. Um, Google Finance, CDAR, that's an important one. You want to go out and see the reports that the company is producing and hold them to account. CEO.ca, hear what other people, see what other people are saying. Look for articles. Watch YouTube videos. All right, those are all right here. All right, so matter of fact, if we click on that, let's say we want to go to CDAR. Okay, that's taking a minute. All right, so here are all of the things, the MD&A. All right, we want to pull these up and read about the companies. We want to look at their finances, see how they're spending their money, right? Are they spending more on promotion than they are on drilling? Are they spending more on G&A? All right, those are all things you want to look at. Do your due diligence. Okay, so here's a tool you can pull right from this page and pull the same information about other companies and compare them one with another. All right. Um, Here's another one, forum board. Let's pull that up real quickly. All right, if you go out to Avino, you know that if you go out to the tab here, you can pull up the forum board with all of the posts that people have made about the company, and that's an excellent way. Actually, if you go from the very beginning, if you click, you notice the one that's highlighted there, that has posts right from back to 2018 and going forward. So you can go through and see how this company's prospects have progressed over time, for instance. And that's a great way of using that tool. All right, let's go back. All right, where was I? Okay, so the forum board. What else? Cash flow calculator. I'm not going to go into that. There's other videos perhaps that you can look for. But the other thing I want to highlight is what I think is kind of a good way to use these tools in conjunction. Now there's this search and compare view. All right, if I click on it, I'll show you in a moment. Before I do, let me just show you one other thing. I showed you that in the company profile page that those tools were accessible. Here, if you click in the search, right, click in the company name, the same tools are available. So beforehand, you had all of these tools available to you in search results and in the company profile. Now they're also available here in the summary results. So now let's get to that last search and compare view. If you click on that, that's going to bring up just one stock. And again, we want all companies, all columns rather, because we're dealing with a particular company, so we want to know everything we can about them. But there's one thing I want to suggest that I've found helpful in using this with, and that is to change this list because it's not only one company. Perhaps I want to look at another company. Now let's say we want to compare one company with another, pardon me, side by side. So I'm going to pull up Aya and compare it to Avino, and I hit shortlist. All right, now we have two companies, and we know which ones they are. We're not going to get lost in the details. They're side by side, and we can hone in on what we might want to use as the basis for our comparison. All right, so that's all the data side by side. And now I get to another point I want to make. Okay, and that is something that unfortunately I can't show you in OBS. So I put a tip out there, and it's how to display helpful information, calculated columns. And it turns out that when you hover over a column, a little tooltip will pop up, and that gives you the formula used to calculate. All right, so there's a tooltip that shows you the search results. All right, not all of them, but just a sampling. All right, and there's another tooltip. Let me scroll up. Sorry about that. Let me scroll. There we go. Now I put out a second one for the company profile page because there's a similar tip out there that shows you what this value, how was this value calculated, or what does it represent, if there's a definition or if there's a formula involved. All right, so you can just hover over the column and this tooltip will pop up, and you can determine, or it will tell you what this number is. Now it's interesting that I had done this. I had done these tips about a year after, and I was looking to update this tutorial, and I just by accident found this post in help and information because quite honestly, I don't go out there very often anymore. I didn't think I needed help, but I do. And it was this post back in February of 2021. And Alex, our member, posted this, and Paul responded. He said, if you are on a desktop, then hovering over the column names will show you the formulas. Well, how about that? Okay, I could have just put a link to this post in the tutorial, but I didn't know this was out here. But I just read. I said, "Wow, this is good stuff here." And he says, a metric like potential profit at current PM prices divided by market cap. What that does is attempt to work out what profit potential a company has if they extracted every ounce and sold it overnight. Then it is compared to the current market cap. Well, how cool is that? Well, he has a but or a however that doesn't take into account exploration potential, political risk, etc., etc., and otherwise your due diligence. He says mining is a very complicated business ultimately. Ain't it the truth? But anyway, I was prompted to scroll further, and that's when actually, where did I post that? Right here. I put this link to this paragraph here. But there's one other thing I want to point out, because let me scroll down. It's actually this one right here. I'll just highlight it. He said, okay, and that gets to the issue of who are you going to trust. He said, most of all, my issue, and he's in response, he says, do you really want to put your trust in someone else's pick, even if that someone is as knowledgeable as Don? And he says people spend more time researching what an electric screwdriver, which screwdriver to buy, than stocks they're going to put their money in. All right, so I thought this was very helpful. And then he goes on, he says, filtering stocks in the search and compare tool can get you to a small list worthy of more investigation. Read, and here's the paragraph, by the way. You can go back and read it. All right, so I just thought that, this highlights the value of this is the most beneficial tool in gold stock data, and that is the unselfish contributions that people have made to make us all better and more effective at doing this. All right, so I just thought I'd show you maybe how I use the gold stock data tools and how you can use them in combination and perhaps do better due diligence on stocks and maybe make the contributions in this forum more helpful to all of us, because that's what we're here for, right? We're all in it together, as Red Green says, right? Alrighty, so I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching. Take care.